A very good evening to you and welcome to Power Brief on this 18th day of the month of November, the year 2021. And tonight we take another trajectory, we take a break from politics, the current happenings in the country, and we focus into the 21st century woman. We want to look into some of these opportunities that are available for the 21st century woman, the threats and also harmonization. And our special guest tonight is Barbara Smith. Barbara Smith is an international speaker. She is an author, an entrepreneur, and a business strategist with countless success in helping businesses and personalities thrive in their life ventures. She is a citizen of the United States of America. And tonight we're going to discuss all that surrounds the 21st century woman with a bias on an African woman. My name is Cornelius Omuse and I welcome you into this conversation that is also live on our Facebook page, KAK TV Kenya, and YouTube is KAK TV Kenya. We welcome your feedback, concerns, and even questions to Barbara H. Smith tonight as we go about this discussion. Keep it here as we go about this discussion tonight. Welcome to our show tonight.
Thank you so much, Cornelius. I am so excited, honored, and grateful to be here with you tonight.
Nice to see you. And probably before we begin the show, how do you find the country of Kenya coming all the way from the United States? I know once in a while you hear about Kenya, people talk about Kenya. What comes in your mind, or what have you been hearing about Kenya outside there?
Well, I think I have a little bias towards Kenya because I used to work with a young lady who is from Kenya, and I got to know her quite well. And I found her to be hardworking and forthright and trustworthy. And so she kept saying, you got to go to Kenya, you got to go to Kenya. And then I met Dr. West and was able to have the adventure, and I'd like to say that adventure, of coming to Kenya. What was I expecting? I was expecting people to be like my friend Agatha Gutundu. And certainly that's what has been happening. So much so that in July, when I came the first time, I was so elated, excited, and enjoyed it so well that I decided that when Dr. West offered a second trip that I would come back. Little did I know that my mother, who was afraid of flying since 9/11, decided she wanted to go as well. So I brought my mother to Kenya this time, and I'm looking at Kenya through all new eyes, through the eyes of my mother. So I'm excited about that.
That's great and awesome. And to look into our conversation tonight, that is the 21st century woman, and with a bias on an African woman. And here sometimes we come about discussions talking of an African woman has got a bit of unique traits from other women from other continents, let's say Asia, Europe, America, and other continents.
Yes.
Does this argument really hold water at some point?
Well, when you say, that's a great question, because when you say that African women have a different perspective and a different culture than other areas of the world, that is in fact correct. In African American women in the United States, we have been bombarded with all kinds of fallacies about the continent of Africa. And so there are places and people who don't have any idea what it's truly like to be here. African women that I found and discovered and studied in the past have always been strong. They've always been the matriarch of the family, taking care of the children, taking care of the husband, taking care of, the household, the buying and selling of goods and services. And so it's very interesting that they are a strength, yet they're not sometimes allowed to be a strength. Conversely, an African American woman, we have those same traits, underlying traits of being strong, of being entrepreneurial, of being caretakers for our families. Yet we seem to have a little bit more freedom to be a woman and be a strong woman in the Americas.
Many things. And probably looking into a number of issues, you've talked about the resilience, the strength and the tenacity in the African woman. But having looked also in history, some of the inventions that came about, some of the women who made some strides, and went into sometimes even the Guinness Books of Records and some of the historical books. A majority of them emanated from other continents, and also it brought in a question that what could really, or what has been some of the impediments towards an African woman thriving or excelling in a number of aspects in their day-to-day activities?
That's a great question as well, Cornelius. You know, it never fails to amaze me the numbers of great inventions, ideas, and creativity that African women possess. The difference, though, is they have not had the capital to explore patents, licenses. And so what happens is, though they may have a great idea, a great invention, what's inherent is it's being stolen from them and being labeled as belonging to someone else. And so it's not that they haven't created these wonderful inventions and these wonderful ideas and these wonderful services and products. It's that they have not been given or allowed to be given the capital to make it work.
Thank you. And there must have been some things which actually came on board to trigger debates, because at some point I know you will come into agreement that indeed there have been strides or steps that have been made towards seeing that an African woman is actually empowered. There must be some of these things that came on board to a point, and then everybody sat down and said, no, here we have to really also change and start leading this African woman to this particular direction.
I think what's happening now, right now, is there is a combination of conglomeration happening, a coming together of the African women and the African American women. I think there's more cohesiveness in the African community towards women. I just left an event, as a matter of fact. These women came together to uplift each other, to give each other strength. And there's strength in numbers. You can take one person that can do one thing, but when you bring a community of women together, especially African women and African American women, we are a force to be reckoned with, combining our strengths.
And now, still looking into that, you realize that there have been issues probably to do with culture, there have been issues to do with beliefs, and you realize that some of the communities across the world till now, because someone will even bring in an example that when America had its elections, two candidates beating each other, that was Donald Trump and Madam Hillary Clinton, and still Hillary was coming closer to winning the election, though she didn't make. So when sometimes you bring a debate to a number of African states, and then you tell them that, look here, other countries have embraced women, they usually come in with such an example. Does it mean that women reaching certain limits or such positions has not only been an African issue, but also globally, even to the developed countries?
That is absolutely a fact. Women typically throughout history have been minimalized. They have been the property of their husbands. They have been denied access to capital, property, and other means of wealth building. And so when you look to the Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton example, that she rose to almost the president, the highest office in the land, you also have to look behind the scenes at all of the other women who may not be the highest level in the land, but have gained so many positions in politics, in government, in CEOs. We're still not there. We're still a long way from having equity in gender, but we are a whole lot better than where we were at one time.
So in one or another, you're really coming into agreement that indeed women empowerment is actually a global campaign, a global concern, that everybody has to do it, only that the difference comes in when it happens that this country has got to this level and all that level. And we come into also this issue that after agreeing that actually steps have been made towards empowering women, that's why even tonight you're here actually highlighting and bringing out what have been done, and also the things that you've done also to empower other women and also to empower men. There are these people who have really been key players and stakeholders in coming up with women empowerment calls and initiatives. You remember even during ending the slave trade, there are those people like Wilberforce,
Yes.
Adam Smith, who came up with some of the arguments. So sometimes women watching across the world, sometimes they want to really understand what are some of these women who've really played greater roles, or those ones that you admire. Look at them and say, had it not been for some of these people, then we could not have made these steps. Probably beginning from you.
Wow, to say that I'm one of those women who, if I had not made steps, would not have allowed other women to come up. There are so many women, Madam C.J. Walker, there are so many women. At the top of my head, so many I can think of. Diana Ross in acting, and Cicely Tyson in acting. It's just so many women who have paved the way for us. We stand on the shoulders of greatness. Rosa Parks, and there's so many. But here's the thing: when we as women get to a level where we can give a hand up, that's what we should be doing. And many times we don't. We feel like sometimes we've arrived, but I believe that if each one of us teaches one of us, then we all rise higher. When we as a womanhood, a sisterhood, come together, and these things are not always seen. So for example, in the early days, there were not a lot of babysitters for our children. We would ask our aunts, our mothers, our grandmothers, our sisters, our siblings, our friends to help. Sisters would help sisters to raise the children. You heard the expression, it takes a village. And certainly it takes a village to raise up our children. It takes a village for us to watch out for each other even. Because with this economy of what's happened with COVID, for example, when many women had to leave their jobs, who's going to take care of the children? When there's no school, when schools are shut down, who's there to take care of these children? And so some women did not have the luxury of staying home with their children. What did they do? They elicited the help of the sisterhood. And so no matter what happens, especially in adversity, we as a sisterhood thrive.
Thank you. Now, when it comes to the issue of women empowerment, the processes, there have been some connection to do with the talk of evolution, not really evolution of man, but evolution of circumstances, things as it happens in the society. Just today, we've had the former Prime Minister of Kenya, that is Raila Odinga, who is eyeing presidency come next year. He was meeting women across the country. And actually, one of the debates which one of the woman leader raised there was the 2/3 gender rule. These are very huge debates in Kenya concerning women inclusivity in governance, that is being members of parliament, senate, and other appointments. It has gone to parliament more than once, and then it has always been shut down because there have been some argument that women do not really require special treatment. They say that they should go outside there and compete with men naturally, and whoever wins gets the position. But this connection with evolution that let things flow at their pace rather than giving women special priority. What is your take on this? Do we give women, does the society need to give women special attention, or to actually offer a level field for competition?
Great question. Okay, so here's how I feel about that. The women who are qualified, as well as a man is qualified, may not get the job for all kinds of reasons. There is cultural differences. There are men in power who would rather not see a woman take the seat. Not only that, but even when a woman gets the position, if she earned it and there's somebody who is in the game that allows her to get the position, she will not be paid what a man would get paid. So in those circumstances, I strongly believe that they should be given the opportunity, even if it's a special set aside, for them to come up higher. Because what we found globally is when you allow women to come into politics, local government, the school system, wherever it is, you get a certain kind of extra added something that a man cannot provide. It's care, it's nurturing, and yet they can be just as strong as a man.
Coming closer to that, and another euphemism has always been finding its way into political discourses, or sometimes even into social fabrics and arrangements of the society, whereby some people have been talking of a woman is an enemy to a fellow woman. And I've always been having an argument actually to peg on these euphemism. They say that in most instances you realize that the population of women is slightly a bit higher than men, or even if not higher than men, they have a considerable population to allow them go and vote for a fellow woman, and this woman gets elected rather than seeking some of these special considerations, which is becoming a problem. And the Kenyan parliament is an example that the efforts to have the 2/3 gender rule has always been hitting a snag. Is it true, or what has been the hindrance of women probably going to vote for fellow women?
Well, there is more education that needs to be done amongst women. I will not disagree with you on that. But what I think is we have to empower women in general for them to understand their own worth. I think women who oppose other women are women who don't understand their own worth. I think women who oppose other women don't value themselves. And so it's easier when you don't value yourself to tear someone else down, which makes you look like you're elevated. But when you train women, as I do empowerment events, when you train women that all of us, each of us, has worth, and each of us has a different gift and a different purpose under the sun. God gave us all gifts, and it is part of my purpose to help each woman understand those gifts. When you have that going on, you won't have as much, as you would kind of say, infighting among the sisterhood and female population.
This goes back to one of the arguments that sometimes comes up. And some people relate the issue of women marginalization to the holy books. And when you meet some of these philosophers, people study philosophy, and sometimes those ones who study law, they'll tell you that let's go back and try to identify that even from the beginning, that the supreme being is referred as he. And then they even talk of when a human being is being referred, that is being referred as man. They say man is both. And some people have used this argument to actually hit or press down women, saying that it's even from the holy books that indeed you are not even given consideration there. How do we really come into, especially bearing in mind that when it comes to religion and matters to do with spirituality, people hold a lot of sometimes fear in it, a lot of clinging on it. How do we really get into it to ensure that even some of these things that people want to use to drive certain agendas do not thrive?
Well, that's a great question as well. Here's what I know. God is love. And if God is love, since God is love, he loves us all. And he loves us all equally. Understanding that the Holy Bible was written by the inspiration of God, but written by who?
Man.
So if you take that out of context, then you write it in the vein and view of a man. I get it. However, I don't believe that the God we serve that loves all has made such a distinction that he didn't take Adam. See, now you're getting me rised up. He didn't take Eve from Adam's head. He didn't take Eve from Adam's feet. He didn't take Eve from Adam's eye. He took Eve from Adam's side. And by the virtue of the fact that he took Eve from his side, they were join together to walk together. If you're walking side by side with someone, how then are you superior to them? If you're walking side by side with someone who God has given you the same power and anointing within, how are you beneath? So we have to come away from religion and come to relationship. When you have a relationship with the one true and living God, then you can't stand there and tell me that women are subservient to men.
Thank you. Before we go for a break, because the second part of the show will be looking into the opportunities available for women, threats that women face, and harmonization, that even as we empower women, how do we ensure that it doesn't cause chaos between women and men, and also forgetting the boy child. There is this issue here that comes up when it came to putting the worldview, the beliefs, when it comes to the issue of culture, when it comes to the issue on how people view things and how it is actually put down. How can all these matters be done in harmony with one consideration in mind, that as we are doing this, we are doing it not with any ill will to see that in one or another we bring chaos in between. That in the process of empowering women, we are not really causing chaos, but we are bringing something in place that we want to see to it, that harmony exists.
I think in any relationships, there has to be communication. And until we realize that we're all different, but we all have something to bring to the table, until we realize that it's only going to help us when we work together as a cohesive team, whether it's man and female, men and men, women and we have to work together until we come to the place where we can come to an agreement to agree to disagree and sit down at the table and come up with viable solutions to solve these world problems and move away from the pettiness of the big I and the little you. We will never come to a place where we will be able to conquer this world's problems. And I believe we are moving towards that because as we blend as a society, as we blend as a universe, we have to, and think about our children coming up behind us, we have to come to a place where we come together to solve problems instead of picking the smallest thing. In other words, the Bible says, take the beam out of your eye before you take the speck out of my eye. If you are without sin, then you cast the first stone. We've all done things that we're not happy with, that we're not proud of. But we have to, as a society, we're not called the black race or white race. We are the human race. And until we come back to that humanity in man, we're going to struggle. But I believe we're moving towards it.
Thank you. When it comes to messaging, you being a communicator, a coach, and a trainer.
Yes.
There is this thing that some people have been coming up with, or there's an argument which really comes out, that what could have been advocated for in all circumstances when it comes to interaction between men and women is actually the uniqueness, not equality. Because someone was saying, if you talk of equality, you look at a woman, the strength that they have actually to carry pregnancy for 9 months, having sleepless nights, maybe the young one, the child waking up at midnight crying, but the mother will always wake up, attend to the child. When you expose a man to such a circumstance, they may not be able. But when you take the man and probably give him this table to carry or a sack of maize, they may do it with ease. So you realize that what a woman is doing, she's doing it to a perfection, and this thing probably a man may not be able to do. And what a man can do, you realize that sometimes a woman cannot do, but all those contribute to the society. Have we been doing the correct messaging when it comes to actually appreciating the strength of the both gender?
I think we have not been. I believe that there are strengths in both the male and the female. And I don't think we should put either of them in a box. I don't think you should say, for example, a husband and wife. This is a man, this is a woman, they're married, and the woman should take care of the house, and the man should go out to work. The woman should take care of the children, and the man should manage the finance. If the woman is better at financial management, let her manage the funds. If the man has a more nurturing spirit than the woman, then let him manage with the children. But we have gotten so stuck in these boxes, and this is what you should do, and this. They have to come together as husband and wife. We have to come together as men and women and realize whatever your strength is, play to that. And whatever you lack in strength, and the woman is not allowed, but is stronger in that area, why not allow that to happen? That's a communication. That's a communication and working together that's going to make the family work.
Many things. We go for a quick commercial break. When we return, we'll be looking into opportunities, threats, and harmonization when it comes to the 21st century woman, looking back at the journey that this woman has traveled all the way since time immemorial, where they are and where they're headed to. And that's why tonight we have Barbara H. Smith, who is helping us looking into these ways on how when we empower a woman, what does it mean to the society, and also creating harmonization as far as cohesion and integration is concerned. Keep it here on CAC TV. Are you looking to grow a business? CAC TV offers you a variety of advertising opportunities to suit your budget. Advertise with us today and reach your potential customers countrywide. For more information, email us on sales@cactv.org or call 0794 588 054.
Wakenya ni wapenda kazi na kila siku wako mbioni kuchapa kazi. Kipindi cha Kazi na Mali ni rafiki, swahiba na kipenzi cha wachapakazi wote. Si jua kali tu. Kilimo shambani.
Kusema kweli nguruwe ni wazuri.
Madini ya protein kwa huyu snail iko juu sana.
Biashara sokoni. Wajasiriamali wa aina zote, sanaa, wasanii. Guess what? It is business. Tunatembea nawe kila hatua ya uvumbuzi na ubunifu wako ili kujikimu na kukimu uchumi wa taifa. Kazi na Mali, sisi ndisi, CAC TV, hapa ndipo.
Families should be the epitome of love. But in recent times, this seems like a dream, because all we're witnessing is rape cases, high divorce rates, betrayal, and even murder.
So you have to protect her.
Maintaining marriages because
there are also many who are going through issues in their marriages and they can't run to anybody.
The issue of killing, the issue of murder seem to be on the rise.
And that is why we bring you Transforming Families, where we are all about just that, transforming families.
PCA Ongata Booth Girls High School of Excellence is an outstanding girls boarding high school ideal for learning. Located in a quiet and serene environment in Ongata Rongai, Kajiado County. The school aims to produce highly qualified students who will be readily admitted to world-class high institutions of learning and graduate into outstanding citizens of integrity.
Our school is an excellent school which has all the facilities. We offer quality education in conformity with the Ministry of Education. We have very professional teachers.
The main reason to have this school here is to empower the girl child here around this area, nationally and even internationally.
Founded and grounded on Christian values, discipline is one of its fundamental values.
We emphasize on Christian values, and our children, when they are here, they can access our church, which is just across. And we have a pool of things that they do when they are here, and we emphasize on discipline.
The school boasts of modern state-of-the-art facilities such as spacious classrooms, a well-equipped library, science and computer laboratories, a dining hall and a modern kitchen with a robust feeding program. We take keen interest in nurturing students' talents, hence our semi-Olympic sized swimming pool and spacious fields.
We are appealing to you once again that you give us the girl and we will give you back a holistic lady of dignity and integrity.
This is PCA of Matabuka High School of Excellence. Faith in God, this is knowledge and excellence.
Welcome back, and many thanks for tuning in to Power Brief on CAC TV. And as I said earlier, tonight we take a break from politics and other current affairs and focus on the 21st century woman, looking into opportunities, threats and harmonization when it comes to nurturing this woman, and also focusing on the past journey, current and the future. We have Barbara H. Smith, who is our guest. He's a trainer, communication expert and international speaker, and is helping us look into some of these things that affect the 21st century woman, either positive and negative, and what is the way forward. Before we went for a quick commercial break, we were really looking into some of opportunities, some of the things that happens, what have been impediments. But again, briefly take us through some of these achievements that women have made as a result of women empowerment campaigns that have been there, all the calls, let's empower women. What can we stand on top of a tall building and say that indeed these and that is what has been achieved?
Well, there's many advancements for women. Many women, especially around the world, have taken positions of leadership, positions as CEOs, positions in politics, higher levels of government. And it's a shift from previous centuries. And so I believe that trajectory is going to continue. Many women realize now that they don't have to be afraid to take on more responsibility. And they're being groomed, some by women and some by men, to take on more and more responsibility, which leads the country forward, which leads the world forward. And I believe that it's only going to get more and more prevalent.
Now, still looking into that, there is what we call rating percentage. When a student sits for exams, they say this one has achieved 80%, 70%. There is grading A, B, C to that, to the poorest level. We've had women taking senior positions. Let's look at the country of Germany. We've had Chancellor Angela Merkel there. When we go to Liberia, we've had Sir Ellen Johnson, who's been there for some time. We've had Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, all the way from Philippines and other countries. How can we look back and rate their performance in leadership? Not really comparing them with men, but them as women. What were their performance?
I think their performances are very well received because they're more compassionate, I believe, than their male counterparts. I believe that they have a different way of looking at problem solving, where the strong hand even though they have a strong hand, they are more compassionate with their leadership and direction. They allow the people who work for them and in their ranks to come up with creative ways and include them in the decision-making processes. I believe women in leadership positions have a visual, a way ahead that is not normally seen when men take the helm. So that could be just my own prejudice, but I just believe that women have a different perspective when they look at things. They look at things in a, men are typically logical, and even though women are emotional, they have the humane side of them that is more apt to look at the human being as a whole, as opposed to just their position.
Some perceptions existed in the past, growing up, especially when we go to school. Some of perceptions really kept on coming up. One of it was like, you see, they tell you, this subject is not for women. An example of mathematics, an example sometimes of physics, some of those subjects, but you could realize that you could get some ladies who does it very well and they beat men when it comes to those subjects. And looking at it, it has taken psychologists some time to understand what has been the contributing factor that, yes, you find a lady doing very well in something that has been viewed as a men-dominated field, and sometimes you find, yes, that many men do well in some of this particular field. Could you please tell us, like, what has really been the contributing factor to some of these circumstances, and also how do we get over them if indeed it's not true that this is meant for this gender and that is meant for that gender?
You have hit a very good point with me. As a little girl, for example, I was born in the 50s. And at that time, little girls were supposed to be teachers, nurses, and play with dolls, which would nurture the teacher and the nurse. I never liked dolls. And so how do I fit? Because I wasn't expected to play with trucks, cars, things that had machinery, right? And so I tell the story that at 3 years old, I was an engineer. And they say, how is that possible? Well, I was always taking things apart and putting them back together. My mother tells a story about how I came home with her with this little toy that had many pieces. And she put me in the kitchen floor. I walked away and took this entire toy apart. At 2 years old, I put the entire toy back together, functioning, which meant that at 2, 3 years old, I was an engineer, re-engineering a product. But it wasn't nurtured. It wasn't even noticed because we tend to groom little boys to be mechanically engineered. Well, unfortunately or fortunately for me, my father wanted a son. And I'm the firstborn. So he taught me how to do mechanical things. Change the oil, change a tire, go pump gas, make sure my vehicle was in tip-top shape. Most women are not groomed to do that, even if they're interested. And what's sad is, I won't say sad for me, but I grew up being and doing engineering. My entire career is computer information technology. What's sad is what I was going to say before is, even today, there are very few women who take on the role to be in the engineering and mathematics field. Why? Because they're not expected or exposed to it. Now there are many initiatives. In the United States, there's an initiative called Black Girls Code. And so now they are expanding the minds of these young ladies that you could do programming, and they're loving it and excelling more than men. And so I believe what's happening and what has to happen, what's happening is the same thing as old. Women are little girls are put in a category or box that they should do this, and little boys are put in a category in a box that they should do this. And instead, what we should be doing is looking at those innate traits in our children, like the little girl who liked cars and trucks. and not putting them in a box, but letting them free flow their traits, gifts, and talents, and then nurture those traits, gifts, and talents so that they can be the best them that they can be.
Thank you. So the bottom line, according to you, regarding this response is that opportunities or the environment serves a better or a greater part in nurturing someone into taking a particular path.
Absolutely.
And all of them should be left actually to pursue what their capabilities or,
and their passions
leads them. That's very great. Now we get into what is this that looking at them is good for our women, opportunities that are available for them. Now when we come to currently we're having the globalization, things are really happening, advancement in technology. You can do something from here. You can be based in Kenya and you're working in America. Probably you're an accountant. A company there hires you here. They send you all the data. Then you work in that. So looking into all this globalization, looking into this digital revolution, what are some of these opportunities available for women?
The entire world is now open. What COVID did for many people was put them out of business, because what companies are starting to realize is it doesn't matter where you work as long as you have access to technology. Now, what I teach in my empowerment classes is that find what your passion is. What is the thing that you would do if you didn't have to worry about money? What is the thing you love to do? When you find that thing and you couple that with technology, you will never work a day in your life. Why? Because when you're working on your passion, you are not working at all. You're enjoying your life. What I would say to women today who are looking for what they want to do, especially women who are confined to the house, technology is a great way to get into those areas. What my concern is that technology infrastructure is not available everywhere. And that's where coupling with empowerment groups, coupling with the government, coupling ourselves with industry that is willing to build the infrastructure so that more and more people have access to the internet. Even though it seems like everybody has a cell phone today, everybody doesn't have a cell phone today. Everybody doesn't have access to technology. But when you do have access to technology, there is no limit. There is an expression called the sky is the limit. There is no limit because you can work from home. And even though work from home seems like this new thing, since I've been working from home for the past 4 or 5 years, it's not a new thing, but now it's accepted. Now it's mainstream. Now it's more prevalent than ever. And businesses have discovered that they get more work from their employees at home than they do in the office. Why? Because they're stopping to have coffee breaks. They're talking to their friends. When they're at home, they're working and actually working longer.
Thank you. Now, still looking into that, the process of empowering women at some stages has experienced a number of backlash. And one of these backlash is that in the process of empowering women, the society actually channeled resources and concentration to girl child more. And in the process, it was felt that the boy child was being forgotten. Actually, a case came up here in our country when examination results were being released, that is primary education and also secondary education. You could find that in the country, top 5 students are girls, then boys trails them. And a debate came up that, are we forgetting the boy child? So as a communication expert, a coach, and someone who works in harmonization, cohesion, and integration, how do we balance the two to ensure that, yes, boy child has been at a vantage position at some point, but as we are raising this hand, do we put this one down or we put them to be at par?
Another fabulous question. I believe we have to stop saying the girl child, boy child. I believe we have to look at children at large. When we socialize them correctly, when we empower them appropriately, when we nurture their own talents and gifts, all will rise. And we can't just say, well, the girl child has been marginalized in the past, so let's give her a little extra help. And the boy's child has always had it, so let's not look at him. We have to nurture our children as a whole. Our children are our nation now, not to come. They are our nation now, and they have ideas and intuition, and they have ingenuity now. The 7-year-old that can program, the 9-year-old, whether they're female or male should not matter. It should matter what is their gift, what is their talent. Let's nurture them as a human being and let them all rise.
So the bottom line is that let people go back to the drawing board and say that a child, any child that you have, regardless of gender, that is your child, and let them be given equal and fair consideration.
Exactly.
That is
absolutely
really fabulous. At the same time now, the institution of marriage, looking into African traditional religion in the past, looking into Christianity and so many other teachings, you realize that marriage is the foundation of most families, or many families.
Many families.
And also an argument came up, and people have been trying to back it up with a number of evidence. The most empowered women usually feel that marriage comes up as another priority, and people could even point, look at that CEO, look at that MP, look at that governor who is a woman, she divorced, or she's not married. And they've been relating that with this issue of you're too much empowered to a point that you feel you have everything. Is that argument one, a holding water, and then two, the harmonization point?
Well, there is 50% of marriages fail, but I believe they don't fail because of the institution of marriage. They fail because we are all human. And instead of looking for the things that we have that we can build on between a man and a woman, we have all different kinds of reasons why we get married to one person or the other. It's a team effort. And until we see it as a collective team effort between a man and a woman, then they're going to fail. We have to agree to disagree. And communication is part of that. If you cannot communicate with your spouse, your friend, your cousin, your whoever, another human being, and have critical conversations, you may not like what I say. You may not agree with what I say, but you can't unhear what I say. And so when we come together as human beings in our collective, whether it's with your parent or your child, you have to be able to have conversations. And those conversations need to be healthy and wholesome. Your screaming at me does not get me to listen. If you don't agree with me and I don't agree with you, go apart from each other and decide, okay, I see your point, or I don't see your point. Tell me why you feel that way. That's a difference than I'm right and you're wrong and there's no middle ground. And so we as men and women, as human beings, I keep going back to that. We are not the black race, the white race, the Hispanic race. We are the human race. And until we come to that humanity, we are going to struggle. And we have.
Thank you. Now, still on that, before we do our parting shot over the same, there are a number of things that are actually impediment or obstacles when it comes first to women empowerment or child empowerment. And these impediments are usually probably ignored, or no one has really come to realization that this thing is trouble when it comes to, we are trying to do this, but it's actually becoming an obstacle. But most people do not realize that this is an obstacle. Some of the things that you've come across that you really believe are impediments to child empowerment, but majority of the people do not really seem to understand it.
Well, I was raised in an environment where children were seen and not heard. And I think that was a detriment to our society. It's a big I, little you. I have more power than you because I'm an adult. And it's not to say that children should run the world. and they should not be respectful. But I think today we have to listen to children. They have evolved. They're exposed to so much more. The internet, for example, they don't have to ask us questions. What do they have to do? Google it. And they have access and exposure to so much information. But we, as parents, sometimes don't control that information. And so we have to be about the business of parenting. And I don't know about you, but I haven't seen any books. The children don't come with books on how to parent, right? So it's a trial and error kind of thing unless you have been educated in parenting. And so I think the impediment is that we don't consider them as people, even though they're little people. We don't consider their ideas and their creativity, and that's not all of us. But I'm saying when you ask about an obstacle or an impediment, we have to begin to realize that these are little people and they came here smarter than we did. And so give them the opportunity to at least respectfully give their ideas and give their opinions. Now, I was never allowed to give my opinion. Let's first say that. But now you have to listen to what they're saying. Some of them are wiser than adults. Would you agree? And so the obstacle with women is that we don't value ourselves. We've been devalued so much in society that many of us still don't value ourselves. And when you work with me, I bring you to your value. I help you dig deep inside of yourself to understand you are a value. And what value you bring is needed in the marketplace. And once you get to that level of confidence, it doesn't matter what other people say about you. We have a tendency to always consider and be concerned about, well, what is Cornelius going to think about me if I say this? Or what is Dr. West going to think about me if I say that? But when you get to a level of confidence where you know who you are and you know whose you are, then there are no impediments. There is no sky for to be a limit. Your possibilities are limitless and endless.
Thank you very much. Now your parting shot. COVID visited humanity last year and they've been running up and down. For the first time, you could realize that this is a pandemic that also put a superpower country on its it actually also put the superpower country on task, and everybody was saying like we've never encountered this before. And someone said that nature is a mouthpiece of God. It communicates. Some people are saying that God was communicating to humanity. Absolutely. There are 2 to 3 lessons that you might have come across regarding the beauty, the nature of God, and what He has for humanity, and one thing about humanity. Some of the few lessons as you do your parting shot.
I believe God definitely was trying to get our attention. Not trying to get our attention, got our attention. He put a bug in a bird and shut down the globe. Did you hear me? He put a bug in a bird and shut down the globe. We can't see it. We don't know where it is. And it caused us a lot of grief. I lost my father during COVID-19. Sorry. Thank you. And many people in the United States lost loved ones. But what it did was it caused us to take a good look at ourselves. It caused us to reflect. It caused us to sit back and say, what do I need? I know people who cleaned their entire closets out because they didn't need to go to work anymore. They had all of these clothes, all of these things, all of this stuff that they decided they didn't really need. The other thing it did was brought our families closer together. You had to spend time with your family. When you were going to work and the kids were going to school and everybody's running, you had no time to sit and enjoy your family. It made you do that.
Wonderful. That is Barbara H. Smith, our special guest tonight. who has actually taken us through such a discussion looking into the 21st century woman, the opportunities, challenges, threats, and a number of things that these 21st century woman requires that are actually of distinction to the past generation. And lastly, she has actually given us a few lessons that she learned during COVID-19. It's been a wonderful engagement and conversation, and we appreciate your comments on our social media platforms and also on our SMS number. This conversation continues tomorrow, where Dr. Ruben West, who is a civility ambassador of iChange Nations, he will be here with us looking into the issues surrounding the 2022 general election, and he will be taking us into various examples of what usually happens and modalities on how Kenyans can keep together moving to 2022 general election. That is a date with you next week on 25th, where we'll also be here on Power Brief looking into that with Dr. Ruben West. For me, Cornelius Omuse, and all those who made this production a success, led by Joseph Kalunda and Winnie Jepkoech, I wish you a very good night and see you tomorrow on Mwale Wakak at 7 p.m. Have a very good night.